Welcome back. Before we go to the gym, just want to say thank you to everyone who is subscribing and liking the videos. We've hit 3,600 plus. The goal is 5,000 to release that sprint program. So we need a little bit less than 1,400 more subscribers and I will release that sprint program. It is a legit sprint program. If this was something I was going to charge for, this would easily be something I could charge $120 to $150 and people would buy this program. This isn't going to be just a very nonchalant, simple program to give out because it's free. This is an actual program that I was already writing and planning on releasing and charging for it. But because I want the channel to grow, I have some things planned that I want to do, I decided to use that and give it away for free to help kind of support the growth of the channel and then support you guys who are liking and subscribing to the channel as well. So if you haven't, subscribe to the channel. Free resources are coming. This is not going to be the only thing I ever do for free. Like I said, I've got plans for things as we go down the road. So I want to make sure that that happens. But today is going to be day one in the weight room this week. We did our work capacity day at the track yesterday. Today we're going to be doing some lower body power explosive type development. So we've got some jumping to do. We're going to be moving some heavy weights very fast. And then we've got some different accessory things that will end for the day. But first, as always, we're going to take the pre-workout. Let's go to the gym. Alright, so we're going to get straight into today. I've done a few of my warm-up sets already. What I'm going to show you real quick first is a slow motion of what the foot does as it makes contact with the ground, kind of showing you like what my focus is on trying to be reactive off of the ground. So anytime you are going to be doing some sort of reactive jump, you want to make it feel as if you're making contact with the ground on that mid to 4 foot range. So you should have your heels elevated off the ground as you make contact. You'll see a little bit of flexion through the ankle, meaning the heels will drop down, but they're never really going to make contact with the floor. That's going to stretch and load the Achilles, and then you're going to think about exploding off of that as quickly as possible. So if you're able to do that very well, you'll get that bounce feeling that people say when they feel like they're bouncing off the ground. That bounce is going to be that quick stretch of the Achilles, and then the release of that to explode through and try to get as much energy off of that stretch as you can. So that slow motion there is just showing how the foot makes contact with the ground. What my focus is try to feel that stretch and explode. And you want to do that as quickly as possible. So starting off with this specific exercise, you want to make it where you're able to get that bounce feeling. So for a lot of people, that means starting off very low and managing that feeling. And then as you get more comfortable, you've built more volume, you're stronger in those positions, you're able to kind of progress that to a higher dropping point and get a little bit more elastic energy return off of that. So that's what that slow motion is doing. What we're doing today on the first set, or on the first exercise, is we're going to be doing 4 sets of 6 of those reactive box jumps that we've been doing for the past few weeks. So again, week number 1, we kept it very light in terms of intensity. We did sets of 10, and then week number 2, we did sets of 8. Week number 3, we're doing sets of 6, and each time that we've decreased the amount of repetitions, we're focusing on putting more intensity into each one of those jumps. So from 10 repetitions, obviously the more repetitions you do, the less intense each of those repetitions probably will be. You decrease that down. Now we're going to be doing sets of 6. I've been doing this to, I think my 10s I did this to 2 boxes. My 8s I did it to 3 boxes. I'm going to do my first set or 2 to the 3 box height again, and then we'll probably add some of those black rubber mats on top to get a little bit higher. The goal of the box is just to make sure that we're maintaining that intensity, so it's giving me some sort of external cue to accomplish. So the box is going to be here to explode off, make sure that I'm getting up to whatever designated height that I put onto the box, and then repeat that on each of those reps. I normally start on top of the box, and then drop myself down. Today I'm going to show you another way that you could do these if you don't want to start on top of the box. Is kind of just do a few pogo hops to get that elastic feeling and then explode off of it, touch the box, and you'll actually start your first rep from the floor. So what that'll look like is something like that. So we're gonna add a couple mats each of these sets. 4 sets total on this. So set number 2, we added about another inch. These mats are roughly about ½ inch thick. So we've got our 3 boxes, which each of them is about 8 inches. So we're at 24, 25 inches on these reactive hops. So set number 3, we added 3 more mats to this. So we're at roughly 26.5 inches on the box. The rest in between the sets on this, if I were programming this for somebody, I would just say rest as needed, because you're doing less than 10 seconds of work. Even though it's an explosive, powerful movement, it's not very fatiguing. So just rest as long as you need in order to feel like you're going to be explosive for that next set. So you're not taking 30-second rest, but to say you have to rest 2 to 3 minutes is kind of arbitrary on this, because it's going to be different from person to person. If you're a more elastic type athlete, meaning you're naturally more bouncy, you probably need less rest. If you're a bigger, stronger athlete, you might need a little bit more rest, but just rest as needed in order to feel explosive for each of the reps here. So another set of 6. Alright, last set. Set number 4. 6 reps up to 32 inches. I hit my hand on the boxes a couple times as I was swinging through. That's the first one. Second thing we're doing, we're going to start right here on these boxes again. We're going to bring over that box, seated box jump. This week being the intensification week of this block, I started off with, I believe, sets of 3 on the box jump on week 1. We did multiple sets of 2 last week. So this week we're just going to have some fun, and we're going to build up to just a couple jumps at a high single. So high box, like I would call this building to a max. My max when doing any type of box jump, I'm still always trying to land above hip to knee. I don't ever want to be landing in a full squat position like this. When building to a max, give yourself a little bit of room, still try to land athletically on top of the box. That's what we're going to do here. I'm going to go grab the box, we'll set it up, and probably do anywhere between 5 to 8 total repetitions, including my warm-up jump. So like the first couple sets here will be considered my warm-up. I'll get to an area where I feel like now I'm really exploding to get on top of the box, and that's where I'll start counting my sets. But maximum total jumps here, less than 10 total reps on this jump today. Alright, set number 2. Alright, we're going 40. We got 5 boxes, 8 inches on each of these boxes. So we're looking at 40 inches. I love that. We're going to do one more 40. I want to feel that I'm getting well above 40 inches and landing down on top of the box. So I'm going to try to land as close to straight leg as possible. I'm not going to have my legs locked out as I land, just because that's not a safe way to be landing on a box. I'll tell you one thing. 40-inch seated box jump, if that's not worth a like and a subscribe, I don't know what is. Give me a like, give me a subscribe. That's legit. Third thing for today, banded box squats. The band tension from week 1 to week 3 today has always remained the same. We've been adding more load to the bar itself. I think week 1, we did sets of 4 at 170 kilos. Week 2, we did sets of 3 at 190. This week, we're gonna be doing sets of 2, so probably somewhere in the range of 200 to 210 kilos on the bar. The bands, while they do change the strength curve a little bit, what they're there more for is just a little bit of added safety. I like the band because it will keep that bar against my shoulders no matter how hard I try to explode through at the top. So if I were to put just barbell weights and then no band tension, a lot of times if we're moving with intent and we're really trying to be explosive, you get to that top position, that bar kind of bounces off. I don't want 190, 200 kilos coming off my shoulders and then having to catch it. So the band just keeps that bar connected to my shoulders the whole time. So it's a little bit safer, and it also adds a little bit of tension, which is never a bad thing. So the box itself, the focus is touch the box and then get off the box as quickly as possible. It's not a traditional box squat here. You can be at 90 degrees, maybe slightly above 90, but you're thinking about just getting down and then back to the top. So I'm gonna do some warm-up sets, probably go 70, 120, 170, and then maybe 200 up to 210, depending on how everything's feeling. All right, first set, we're gonna be at 205 for today. 170 felt good. I think 205 is gonna be a solid point for today's sets. So 5 sets to 2. One thing I want to do real quick is yesterday I gave you guys a facility tour of the track that I run in. Today I'll give you guys a little tour of the gym. It's going to be a very quick tour because this gym is tiny. This is the gym that I train in all the time. It's not connected to the track. The track is about a 5-minute drive from where I'm at today. But the weight room here is a very simple weight room. We'll start at the door. So if you walk in the front door here, which is got a little key code for it so you can unlock. Come in the front door. Directly to the left, you've got a little storage area for the plyo boxes, dumbbells, pull-up bar, and a cable machine. You got your weight plates set up here. We got an assault bike for those that don't like themselves. GHD. This weightlifting platform was just built over the last few weeks. The reason we have a platform here that's kind of elevated off the ground, if you can see this here, it's because this room used to be kind of like an auto repair shop for one of the companies in town. So the floor is kind of slanted because there's a drain system in the middle in case they were washing cars, changing oil, whatever they were doing. So that slant on the floor, obviously not ideal when it comes to lifting. So they built an elevated weightlifting platform just so we can have a flat surface that's solid to lift on and not have to feel like we're lifting on an unstable surface. So that's gonna be, we've got 3 combo racks. So 1, 2, 3. And then we've got more 25 kilo plates than anybody in the world would ever need. There's probably about 50 of them in here total, but a little stretching room back here with a mat in it and a bathroom in case you need to take a shit between your squats. That's the facility tour. Now we're gonna move on to some accessory work for the day. The last 2 movements we're gonna do today are gonna be hamstring focused. So the first one we're gonna start off with is kind of a block RDL. I don't know exactly what I wanna call this, but we're just starting from a dead stop position. loading the hamstrings up as much as we can. You're going to try to arch your back, push your hips backwards, just like you were doing in RDL. And then from that position, try to explode the hips forward, pull the bar up as quickly as possible. The setup is very important on this. You want to feel that you're at the bottom of your RDL. So the barbell height should be where you normally would end your RDL. For me, when I do my RDLs, I get the most tension in the hamstring once that bar gets just below the knees. Anytime I go lower than that, it's kind of just, as you can see, a little bit more flexion and extension with the back. I'm not actually moving my hips anymore. So set yourself up in a position where you feel the most tension onto the hamstrings, and then elevate the bar to that position. And you're just going to be doing the concentric portion of the RDL and trying to make it as quick as possible. So I like to use straps on this. You don't have to if you don't want to, but you're going to set yourself up, push the hips back as far as you can, get that little bit of an arch into the back, feel that you've got tension into the bar already, and then explode up to the top, reset on each rep. And we'll build up on this. Don't get this confused with like a clean pull or even like a rack pull. Like if my setup position here, thinking that it's going to be an RDL, is right here. If I were thinking that this is going to be a clean, it's probably very similar, but rather than thinking about pulling the hips through, when I'm doing a clean, I'm thinking about pressing the bar up first, and then there's going to be a little bit of a scoop and pull. So the motion is going to be a little bit different. If this was going to be like a rack pull, like I was thinking it's going to be a deadlift, then I'm going to be bringing those hips a little bit closer to the bar, and I'm going to be thinking about pulling the bar straight up from this position. So this would be a rack pull. My RDL, I'm pushing the hips a little bit further back. I want more motion into the hip, so more flexion and extension versus just kind of a straight up and down motion. So that's kind of the difference if you're thinking about like a clean pull or a rack pull. This, I want it to be as close to an RDL as possible. So emphasize pushing the hips back, loading the hamstrings, and then you're thinking about pulling the hips forward as you come to the top. Unlike a clean again, where you're going to be thinking about pushing straight up first and then kind of scooping underneath and driving up, or just a rack pull where you're just pushing straight into the ground and extending through the knee and the hip at the same time. So hip dominant movement, load the hamstrings, pull the hips back to start, load that hamstring and the glute up, and then explode with the hips forward to use that hamstring and get some more power out of the posterior chain. Alright, so last thing we're going to do today, we're going to do GHD raises or Nordics on the glute ham developer. Hit our hamstrings again in a different stimulus. So the hamstring has two major functions. One, it likes to do extension of the hip. So if you're doing an RDL, this is going to be the hamstring at its most lengthened position, and then you're extending the hip. So a lot of hamstring in that. The other thing the hamstring does is flexion at the knee, so bringing the heel close to the butt. So that's going to be its most shortened position. It's important to train the hamstrings in both their length position and their shortened position, especially if you are doing any type of sprint work like I do twice a week. So making sure you hit both positions of the hamstring is very important. This is going to be more training the hamstring in its shortened position because we're going to maintain extension at the hip as we go through. We're going to lengthen the hamstring from the knee joint, and then we're going to pull ourselves back into knee flexion into the hamstring's shortened position. So GHD. You could also just do regular Nordics on the ground if you like. But what you're thinking about doing, maintaining extension through the hip, you're going to extend the knees and then pull yourself back into a shortened position. Other variations that kind of train the hamstring specifically in a shortened position would be like a lying leg curl. So if you have machines, you could lay down on the machine, which is going to maintain extension through the hip. You're just going to be extending at the knees and then pulling your feet back towards your butt and flexing the knee, which will train the hamstring at the shortened position. How you like to implement that doesn't really matter, just as long as you're training the hamstring both at length and in its shortened position. So I'm going to knock out a couple more sets of this. So this is going to be the end of the video today. If you made it all the way through, I really appreciate you. Make sure to like, make sure to subscribe, and we'll be back at it tomorrow.